Oh, welcome everybody to the Q&A number 2. I'm a little bit quiet. Okay, I might be a bit back now. Okay, I think that sounds okay. Um, what am I trying to do? I was trying to do something. I was trying to flip my camera because it's not transform, flip horizontally. Hey, there we go. Because this is the direction I'm actually facing. What's going on? How's everyone doing? Wait, transition. Haha! I did it. I'm best at this game. So I have some questions to ask, and my awesome mods have formatted it correctly and all sorts of other stuff. I was gonna get some other music other than Forest Day, but everyone loves Forest Day. Everyone loves Forest Day. So we're going to listen to Forest Day, the whole question and answer session. And I have my first question right here. Boom. Vic asks, how many notes do you do in preparation? Like example, one session, and what do you do to prepare for it? So the main thing for taking notes to prepare for a session, what I personally do is, I take about 2 hours beforehand. Basically, I write stuff, generally speaking, I write the general idea, and then I extrapolate upon that in a general sense. Because my campaigns I like to have on loose rails, or so I say most of the time, that you are on rails that are 5 feet wide, but you have 100 feet on either side to go relative to what your character wants to do. Because if your character wants to be a hotel mogul or something, you're more than welcome to do that, but as long as it fits within the story, because D&D is about telling a story and people having fun. If your character wants to have fun by running hotels, that could get a lot of micromanagement and could be a real issue for gameplay and the smoothness of the game and things like that. So I take about 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours to start and make sure the session is good resource wise. So an example would be the most recent episode of Seeds of Destruction, which it's now named, by the way. I made an intro for it. I might show you guys the intro later, or you can wait until we play again, and I'm not really sure when that is going to be at the moment. You know what I need to do? I need to set up a display capture so that I can show you guys like how to set up Roll20 and D&D Beyond, because those are the big ones. But then I would have to lose Forest Day. Are you guys good with losing Forest Day for a question? Is that okay? An example of one session, what I did to prepare for it, would be the most recent episode of Seeds of Destruction, where they fought the giant Galaxy Beholder. Spoilers. That I took about 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours to prepare for that. And it paid off, but there was a couple things I wasn't ready for that I sort of had to adjust. I would say that, as I like to call, adjusting fire, or improvisation would be my greatest skill when it comes to playing this game. Because very rarely do I ever take a lot of time to prepare for anything, except for the bigger episodes where huge shit happens, like episode 32, episode 31. I took time to prepare for. The earlier in the campaign, I prepared a lot more than I did later in the campaign, because as long as you have a general idea of where you're supposed to go, it's not really that big of a deal, especially unless you have like a dungeon crawl planned or something else. So, that's pretty much the answer to that question. It depends on what kind of session you're preparing for. Is it a giant boss battle? Then you want to take more time to prepare for it. And a lot of questions that we got were how to be a D&D how to be a GM or a game master or a dungeon master for D&D, and I think I'm going to do a whole stream that is literally like from the ground up. How do you be a dungeon master? How the things are going to be that, or I might just make a YouTube exclusive video so that you can watch it. That would be like the big one. We're gonna go to this one next. Let's do. Let me change the question over. Boop. Hey, that works. Boop. Boop. Jumaniac. I think that's how you're supposed to say it. What is the job of the DM and how do you play online D&D? Well, how do you play online D&D is a very generic question, and I will Turtle Taco, go to the Discord, go to the Dungeon Dragon section, and my lovely mods will add it to my list. Do it right now. Go do it. I'm looking at you. How do you play online D&D? I will be going over in a minute. Let me answer some more questions, and then I will give you guys like an actual tutorial about how to set up stuff for online D&D. That's sort of like, and you don't have to spend the key to this tutorial will be not spending money to have more resources than you need. That's the idea. And it shouldn't really, you shouldn't need to invest any money for this specific tutorial, but it's actually not a bad idea to do some in a specific manner unless you're streaming. You shouldn't have to spend any money. And then the job of the Dungeon Master basically is to tell a story that, for me personally, so a lot of DMs have different ways of dungeon mastering. A lot of people have different ways of telling stories. Basically, that's the job of the Dungeon Master, is to tell a story. Imagine that you're reading a book where the players are the main characters, okay? The Dungeon Master is literally everything else. Literally, the job of the Dungeon Master is to figure out and do everything that is not what the players are doing. So if you want a Dungeon Master, be prepared to have to do, if you have a, so one of the main things for me personally for being a Dungeon Master is if you have a character that they can interact with, be prepared for them to interact with it, because that is inevitable. If you make a bunch of NPCs that, or make it very clear that the NPCs that are around are just a crowd and they don't matter, in the way that that I do on Roll20, I don't put tokens down, really, unless it's a character that you can and possibly should interact with. So that is huge in the fact that you can make it very apparent that some characters don't matter because they're non-player characters and they truly don't matter at all. And you can make that very apparent with Roll20 and with the way that you describe things. For example, if you were to go, like, if they're going to some sort of concert or, like, festival, you can say that there's a massive crowd huddled around this one character, where the crowd doesn't, you can make it very apparent that the crowd doesn't matter, but the one character that is saying things does matter, in the fact that that's how you set up the description of the story. And it doesn't really matter what language you do it in, because I'm fairly certain as long as you're fluent in your own language, there's ways to do that. With me in English specifically, there's ways to make it very apparent that you are specifically saying something. So when it comes down to the job of the DM to be everything that the players are not. So you have to be prepared and understand the concept that not every character matters, not every NPC matters. Some NPCs do matter. And as long as you're not playing with murder hobos, your NPCs will have a good time. All right, next question. Oh my goodness. Is Quintus here? Do we know if Quintus is here? Either way, I'm going to answer him. I'm going to try to answer this question. We're going to copy it as this part specifically because it's a very long post. I'll read the whole post. Oh my goodness. Apparently my font is too big. Let's see if this fits. Does it fit? Oh, sort of. Let me reformat it. Oh, we don't have robots, do we? Sorry, let me get my robot up. I forgot I moved him into a different folder. So give me a second. There you are, chatbot. Uh. Okay, there we go. My font was too big, but I just had to format it better. The chat bot is starting right now. Hey, there's Lumi. What's going on? Okay. So now, okay. The bot is up now. There is a space at the beginning of line 3. Let me fix that, because that's going to annoy me too. Dang it, the scroll bar. It's poo-poo. There we go. I don't know if you can either. What do you want me to change it to? So you can change it right now. I changed it to Q&A. It should be Q&A. The stream title should be good. Oop. Excuse me. Let me make sure I'm muted before I... Yeah, Q&A number 2. You want a better title or something? Okay. So, do you have any advice for encouraging your players to feel less intimidated by roleplay and getting in character? What do you want, Sarek? Why do you see Steel Horizons Episode 1? That's not what the title is. Does everyone else see that the title is not Steel Horizons Episode 1? F5, Sarek. F5. So, for me personally, the key for me getting into roleplay initially and playing my character, I didn't really do it when I first played in role-playing games. It's probably just Sarek. When I was first role-playing, I didn't role-play very well. But then again, I was 13, 12, if even that. I played a character named Skyfire in a different role-playing system that was, to be honest with you, quite difficult to role-play in because it was all about fighting. So it's just going from fight to fight. The thing for me that makes people get into roleplay easier is A, having someone who's good at role-playing in the group helps a lot, and B, making their character fit in the universe. Because if you don't have a character that fits in the universe, it's not going to be fun for them because they don't really have a place. For example, the Star Wars role-playing game that I like personally has a great way of doing this in what is called obligation. So every time you make a character, you roll on a table and it gives you an obligation. For example, your character can have a bounty, and that bounty gives your character a reason to exist in the universe. Also, motivations. Give your character motivations. Does your character want money? Does your character want to start a religious cult? Does your character want to start a temple? Does your character want to build a library? Does your character want revenge on some guy that killed his family? Do you want, like... There's a million different ways to make your character exist in the universe. And for me personally, that's what makes role-playing good, is having a reason for your character to exist. And as well as playing, there's nothing wrong with role-playing and being yourself in your character. You don't have to do a voice. It's something that my people in Seeds of Destruction with Purge and all of them tell me all the time, I wish I would have done a voice. And it's like, yeah, but you were new at role-playing at the time, and you didn't know your character, and you weren't quite getting into your character yet, which is perfectly okay. You could get into your character later on. It doesn't matter, right? It genuinely doesn't matter as long as everyone is having fun. That's the point of it. So the full question is, do you have any advice for getting your players to feel less intimidated by role-playing, getting in character? My current group is a bit of a mix. 2 players are really into it, and 2 players don't really say anything and just say their words when a fight inevitably breaks out. I was worried they would feel bored during some of the social encounters. I asked them about it, and one of the players said they just don't really know what to do. and that they were never good at RP. Is there any way? There is ways to help them out. Make their character fit in the universe well. For me, the way to not necessarily force roleplay is have a situation where everyone has to talk, or put them in a place where it's not that they're forced to do it, but it will push them in a direction. Because if they're not, and it depends on how they feel about it. If they're not into roleplay, that's okay. Because they might get into it, they just might not be into roleplay as a whole. They just might want to do combat. So maybe your specific D&D campaign might not fit for them. Every player has their own play style, and you sort of have to build stuff around them playing their character well, whether it's fighting or whatever. Maybe their character is quiet. Or maybe their character only speaks when their character has something meaningful to say. For me, that sort of fits into real life. I didn't speak. My mom told me that I didn't speak until I could speak in full sentences, because my older brother talked so much. So, and here I am now. So there's a bunch of different ways to motivate them. Another thing I would do is, if you really want to, I could talk to your players. If you want to message me on Twitch, Quintus, I'm on Twitch, or when you're in the Discord, I'll message you after this. And we could probably talk. I'd be more than happy to do that. And I could talk to your players if they're willing to talk, because it would be fun. All right, let's go down the list. That's my answer, is talk to them and see what exactly they want to do. Because it's good that you asked, because a lot of GMs just say, you need to roleplay or whatever, and it doesn't really fit. Here's a great question from Hi LDL. I don't know if they're here right now, but this is a amazing question. Improvisation. There we go. And how much is prepared? I just want this to fit in the window. Is that too much to ask? It might be too much to ask, actually. Hi. Oh, that space is gonna kill me. Okay, there you go. How much of what we see in a typical episode is improvisation, and how much is prepared material? That goes from episode to episode. It could be literally the entire episode is improvisation. It could be that very little of it is. The thing about being a really good DM, in my experience, is being able to improvise. Because as long as your characters are cool with you telling the story, because they have to realize that you're in charge, as long as they're cool with that, you can deviate as much as you want. For me, it was like when we were at the point where they could go they could go talk to the people in Farhome, or they could go to the cave and the mine, or they could go to the hole in the ground. That was sort of where the improvisation started. I had most of that prepared, but you have to be ready for things like that as a DM. That's when your prep time comes into thing. And then the second part of the question is, do you have to make up stuff on the spot for scenarios and actions, questions you didn't foresee? I have to do that all the time. If there's any time where my players are just sitting there bantering, most of the time it's because I am actually trying to get something ready right then and there. It's actually not that difficult as long as you have resources. And we will be going to the DM resources when I start showing you guys how to get set up in D&D Beyond and stuff like that. And I'm going to do that as soon as I get done. I don't have many questions left. Oh, Sarek, what are you doing? Okay. Apparently Sarek is asking questions. Let's see if this fits in the window first. Let's do that. Oh, hell no. Let's do that. Okay, it's still too much. Okay. Oh, it's gonna fit, but it's gonna be over my face. Let's see. Oh, well, maybe if I get rid of this here. I don't care if it's on my head. Hi, Mom. That's Mother Tucker. 59 is my mother. Say hi. Sarek asks, not much, or Sarah, I still can't remember how to say your name. I know you told me, but not much of a question, but I'm curious about homebrew stuff. I'd like to know your opinion on what would be maybe too much homebrew, or if there's no such thing as too much homebrew if the players, DMs know what they're doing. I would say that homebrew is relative. Homebrew for the whole campaign is great. Homebrew items can be unbalanced very, very easily. And what I would say, what you should do if you are going to homebrew an item, find find an item that sort of fits the description of what you want to make, and then build it based off of that in the idea of balance. It's super easy. Super easy to do. And there is no such thing as too much homebrew. As long as it doesn't break your game or make it really difficult for the GM to balance stuff out, I don't think there's an issue with that. Homebrew classes, I think, are sort of broken. I prefer to stay with the canon stuff because they know how to balance their own game, and people that make their own stuff don't really know how to do that. And there's also a cool section of D&D Beyond where you can homebrew your own stuff too. So and have it be balanced in the idea that you're trading one attribute for another for races, and then one ability for classes for another, that kind of thing. So you can follow their progression system and how they like to design their classes. You can do that as well. I'd also like to know logistics. What do you actually assemble a group with, schedules and stuff? I remember you asking us to sign up somewhere for sub one shots. Yeah, so that's a whole nother question. Let me put it up on there. I'm gonna put it up on the thing. We're gonna do Serish part 2. We're gonna paste this. Then we're gonna do enter, assemble, enter. Oh my god. There's a lot happening right now. Okay, so this is a long question, but it fits over here. I'd also like to know logistics. What do you actually use to assemble a group with schedules and such? So the first thing that we do is every week, every week we do a doodle. So if you Google doodle, it gives you a schedule, and you can set it up to do like a weekly thing. And then people can sign on that, put their name on, and then put what days they're available. So for me, if I wanted to set up another sub one shot, I would be like, so I need 3 of you to volunteer for the first one. Then I get one of my normal players to come play with us. And then we all figure out a day that we can play, and then we'll play on that day. It's really simple to do if you just go to Google Doodle. It's super easy to do that. And there's a bunch of other resources online. Like D&D Beyond, I think, has a forum specifically for people looking to play with each other. There's tons of apps. I mean, literally, if you go to D&D Beyond on your phone, or if you go to Reddit r/D&D, there's like all the advertisements there are just, hey, look, try and find your group for D&D and stuff like that. There's so many resources available. Oh, Fred's here. I don't know what Fred's question is, but we're gonna put it up. We're gonna see what it is. Paste. Get rid of that. Okay, this is a question I'm going to ask eventually. So, we're going to skip Safari Fred's question. Let's go to Cybernet Savillon. Cybernet is here, so I get to answer your question. Woohoo! My mom asked, how do you decide what your character's voice and accent? For me personally, you already know the answers to those questions. That's the big one. For every section of the world, I actually have a set accent for that section of the world because it makes sense to that set of characters. More importantly, when you ask when they encounter, for example, in my new Steel Horizon series, people from the area that Myriad is in, are all southern United States accent. So if someone starts talking like this, it means they're from the area that Myriad is in. So then immediately puts a point of reference for the characters to know exactly what's going on with those specific people, because the people of Myriad are a very specific way, and you can determine a lot of things from that. Okay. I started practicing forever ago. I don't even remember that. I think Will would know more than I would. More than Will would definitely know. And I think I wanted to plan getting my family to play D&D with me at some point. Do a family one-shot, if you guys would be down for that, especially Mom and Dad. I know that Will and Isaac would be down for that, but I think they'd be super fun. If you guys are interested in watching me and my family play D&D, that is. Assuming, okay, Cybernet Salvaillon. Assuming that at the start of your story that you want to get through, how much, and more importantly, what kind of material do you have prepared for is non-essential for the main story? That's such a hard question to answer. So for Steel Horizons, I put 145 hours in for prep in 10 days. But that was writing the whole campaign. So I have a fully 52 to 56, it depends on how long it takes them to do stuff, 52 to 56 episode series. And then for how much, and more importantly, what kind of material do you have prepared for non-essential part of the main story? Everyone's story, so each of my characters for Steel Horizons have written a 3 to 4 page background on their character that I am going to write into the story as we progress. So Lumi has a background, Lyrical's character has a background, I don't even want to talk about Cap's character's background. Holy shit. Shiver has a background. Everyone has a background that fits into my story that we can also push later on, like Elgar's family. That was a huge one. Linnea's mom is a big one. There's a lot of things like that. Oh, Joe Tato, that's a good question. We can interrupt. I pretty much answered Cybernet's first question, I think. If that is that Cybernet is good with it. Joe Tato asks, what happened to Thunor of Traypool? So the thing about Thunor of Traypool is that, I'm going to be honest, Purge was unfamiliar and didn't really like the way that he played and requested if he could play a different character. So that's pretty much it. You just have to be willing to, like I say, adjust fire and be prepared. If someone doesn't like playing their character and isn't having fun, that's the point of the game. If people are not having fun playing Dungeons and Dragons, you need to figure out a way for them to have fun, because as a GM, this is the one game I cannot lose. And if Purge isn't having fun, we're going to make him a new character so that he can. And Mogamak, he must be having a ton of fun because he hasn't really said anything. So that's the answer to that question, is that he did not enjoy playing Thunor of Treepool. And yes, Thunor of Treepool will be making a return at some point. So that's the answer to that question. Okay, so Cybernet also asked, do I use random encounter tables? Absolutely not. I design every single encounter that I do by hand. And there's a way to do that, and I will be doing that. I'm going to do either a stream for D&D prep, or... No, I'll answer them as I see them. I'll interrupt a lot of things. If someone has a question in chat, I will just answer that in the middle, or if I'm finished with the current question. Do I have a list of NPCs you can fall back to, especially in the situation the party gets off the rails? Yes, always. I have a very large tiefling fighter that is a sort of enforcer. Actually, I think that's his actual name, is Enforcer. I have a lot of NPCs that I just love playing, specifically villains and other type of characters that are fun, and people love recurring characters, whether it's players or people watching. So when someone comes back that they were unexpected, it's super fun. I have tons of NPCs. I think if I had to write all my NPCs down, it would probably be like 10 or 15 pages just on names alone. I mean, in this book, I have like 5 pages of just names with the one-word descriptions. So, Egg, everyone, yeah, Egg is like a crowd favorite for sure. How do you guide your party in case they are lost or off the track? Skink. Characters like Skink. Oh, Germaniac, you have not seen the episode? You need to go and watch the episodes with Egg in it. How do I... Skink. So basically, I always insert a character of my own as a quote-unquote what I call guidebook. That if they truly get lost or don't really know what's going on, I will always have a character that has a little bit of information to push them in a direction. So I usually make them a spy master, or base. I can't really tell you what Skink is until after. Just know that Skink has and will show up in every single campaign that I have because of her power set. So, yes, Sarek, I don't know when Egg showed up, but if you want to put an episode reference or put the link for the episode in, or Safari Fred is here, go find the episodes that have Egg in them and link that in the chat. That would be cool, just for Germaniac, because Egg is Egg is one of my favorite characters to play, or at least a variation of him. Yep, there's Best Girl right there. There's a reason we made an emote of her. How do you balance non-main story content with main story content? I don't understand what you mean by balance. If you could... Oh, okay. Yeah. So basically the idea is that for me, do like two or three sessions that are main storyline, then you do 2 or 3 sessions that fit into a story arc that goes a little bit off the rails, because going super hard on main story is really... I mean, has anyone here ever played a video game and just done the main story and never branched off of it? Because if you have, you're lying. I'm just kidding. But really, there's side quests for a reason. And that is to get you more immersed in the world, gift you some more information, like specifically the Harpy quests in Witcher 3 are amazing. They're not necessarily part of the main storyline, but they make you feel like the world is more of a... I wouldn't necessarily call them filler episodes, one old man in chat. I would call them... I don't really know what I would call them. I would call them world building, because world building is super huge. Making the world feel real and making the characters feel real inside of it is about 90% of my job. Oh, itchy. How do you, as a player, invest into the game to make other more quiet players to get more into the RP? I have answered that question already, Slavic. If you want to watch the VOD, it's like basically one of the first questions I answer. The main thing, Slavic, to answer that question about people not role-playing enough, talk to them. Find out what they define as role-play. Like, figure out what they want to do. Give them references. Like, Critical Role has amazing role players. Give them good ideas as to how people role-play well. Give them someone to look at. Give them a point of reference. Critical Role does it well. Anyone in Acquisitions Incorporated, look up those streams. Those are amazing. All of them are like super fucking good at role playing because they have characters that make sense. So, okay. I think I answered Slavic's questions, at least in a good way. Just talk to them, honestly. Talking to them is like 90% of it. If you don't communicate with your players, you're not doing your job. This leads me to the other set of questions, which mostly consider choice. How much choice do you build into each part of the campaign? A few ways for the party to achieve the main objective. It depends on the objective. There's tons of ways to do that. I have the thing for me is I build basically two types of campaigns. Campaigns that you do a bunch of shit, then some shit happens, and then you have to deal with it. Okay, that's one type of campaign I thoroughly enjoy. Or the second type of campaign that I love playing and running is a bunch of stuff happens right away, and you just sort of have to deal with it as things happen. Or you can be a little bit proactive. There's tons of choice, but eventually you will be doing the thing that I would like you to do because I believe that you will enjoy doing it. There's a huge part of storytelling that involves player choice, because if you take away player choice, they're not going to enjoy it. That's why Mass Effect 3 had such a huge issue, is because nothing you did really mattered. Where in my campaigns, if you kill a big NPC, that's going to make a huge difference because that guy could have information. And I'm trying to... A lot of people view this as a video game put into pen and paper, then that's not how it works. Because the world is real, the world is organic, the world is ever-changing because your players exist within that world. So... when it comes to the main objective, that's all relative to where they are in your storyline. So as long as you don't make your world like a video game, people will have more fun because they do have a lot of choice in the fact that you can go here to get information, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go from point A to point B. You could go point A to point C to point D to point B. It's up to you how you want your players to do it and what they enjoy doing. Because if you put your players in a world where if you put your players in a world where they don't have any choice, they're not going to have fun. Give them at least a little bit of choice, or the illusion of choice, because in the long run, you're trying to tell a story. If you want to have a completely freeform campaign, that's up to you. I don't enjoy doing that because it makes my life incredibly difficult. Because I don't want to have to improvise that much. Mutants and Masterminds game because I binged every single episode. What's my favorite superpower and how would I make it evil? Okay, that's a amazing question, Slavic. So I love superheroes. Superheroes are literally my bread and butter. I love every second of it. I have two villains that I love. Okay, I have one. His name is Dr. Noxious. And he has a giant, imagine Iron Man, except his suit is integrated onto his body. And what happens is his blood is toxic. Literally toxin, literally poison, literally just toxic, right? And it turns his blood into a gas. And what he does is he goes into a room, releases the gas, and the gas has a random table of 100 different things that you roll. When someone enters the gas, it reacts to whoever enters the room. It could explode. It could take away their powers. It could do a lot of things like that. So Dr. Noxious is both RNG in a nutshell and a terrifying villain because he has a suit of power armor integrated into his body that turns his blood into giant poison gas clouds. And then my second villain... I don't remember what I called him. I think I called him Base Riff. Base Riff. I think I just called him Riff. I don't remember. But he's a character that can completely and utterly control sound. So technically speaking, if you're talking physics-wise, as long as you vibrate something to a certain point, it will let you pass through it because you can actually make lines between the molecules. So a complete sound control is absolutely one of the most brutal things ever because technically you could vibrate someone and break apart their molecules just by vibrating them at a certain frequency. So imagine a villain that can vibrate himself to where he's immune to bullets. Oh, and then I have a third villain. Okay, so there's another third villain that's super fun. It's not really super, like, he's just super weird, but imagine sound control being a superpower that is absolutely OP, and then make a villain based off of that. My third villain is just called Mimic. And what he does is anything he acts out becomes real, but he's dressed as a mime. He's a mime from the 1940s in Paris. And the Nazis captured him and cut out his tongue. And what happened to him is he actually gained superpowers as a result. So anything he acted out was real, but on a plane of existence that was parallel to ours, but you couldn't physically see what it was. So if he pulled out a gun, if he's like, whoo, bang, that was a real gun that you can't see. Or if he has a grenade, he goes through. It's a real grenade, but you can't see it, but it still physically exists in the same universe as you. So imagine having a villain that could potentially be a hero, depending on how you react with him, that can do whatever he can act out whatever he wants, and it still is terrifying because he can act out whatever he wants and it becomes real. So that's another huge superpower. And then I have another character named Valkyrie, and I have this whole superhero campaign. Actually, I have a bunch of different. I have this this World War II campaign where the Nazis have supervillains, and then your allied supervillains trying to prevent them from getting all these things that they build this giant robot to destroy the world. So, I'm more than happy to just let me know if you record it or anything like that. I would love to take part or do whatever you want. So that's my favorite campaign to run for superheroes is 1942. And you're a bunch of allied superheroes that are created with super serum. And then you have to fight the Nazi villains, which one is Panzer Shrek. Imagine like a giant robot, the giant robot made of tiger tanks that like shoots bullets and does all sorts of stuff. And then you have, that's Panzer Shrek. Then you have Blitzkrieg, who is a super speed guy. And then you have Valkyrie, who's literally a Valkyrie from Norse mythology. Who else did we have? Heimdall, who's a master of illusion and mind control. What else is there? Oh, man. I mean, the first time we played that through, they killed Blitzkrieg because Panzer Shrek couldn't see him after our super strength guy punched him off a roof, and he landed in the street, and Panzer Shrek ran him over and killed him. It was absolutely brutal. Man, that was the one we had this crazy scientist who had these goggles that, oh, it was so good. Oh, that was like, absolutely. Message me on Twitch right now, or join the Discord and message me on Discord. I'm always available for these things. Yeah, message me on Discord. I'm the most legendary. You'll see me at the very top of the list. So please, you're more than welcome to that. If you want to message me right now, I'll get with you after the Q&A. Superheroes are my bread and butter. So I love every part of that. I missed someone's after he said that. It was Yorokobi. How do you prepare for voices and dialogue NPCs in general? And do you have an NPC? How do you do an NPC exposition with excluding player interaction too much? There's ways to incorporate NPC expositions in a very specific, what I call cinematic matter. And the way you do that is you say, okay, so I'm going to be telling you a story for the next 10 minutes. You don't have any interaction with it, but each of you has a vision, or it just depends on how you want to introduce it into your campaign specifically. If you want it to be a purely metagaming thing, you can do that as well. Say, this is not necessarily part of the story, but this is a cinematic to prepare you for what we're about to do next. Right? There's ways to do that. Having NPC exposition is amazing, and it generates new possibilities. And if they run into this NPC, it depends on your NPC. If you would like to put more specifics into that question, I'd be more than happy to answer it. I think it's Yorokobi. Yes, Yorokobi. I'd love to do that. Cybernet, you were not finished with yours. This leads. How much choice do you think is too much? I think too much choice would be like something like Freeform. Just don't let your players do whatever they want, unless that's your campaign. If that's what you want to do that. It's up to you. I don't enjoy doing Freeform campaigns because they're really boring, in my opinion. Everyone likes telling a story. Everyone likes recurring villains. Everyone likes a lot of different things. And when it comes to voices, I sort of answered that earlier. Voices for NPCs should be relative to where the NPC is from. For example, if you were to go into Star Wars, you can tell Imperials because they have English accents. They have British accents. That's an Imperial. If a person has a British accent, they were raised in the Empire, as an Imperial, not just as someone from Naboo. Someone from Naboo, they generally speaking don't have... generally speaking, people from Naboo don't really have accents. I mean, listen to Palpatine. Palpatine doesn't really have an accent. He just has the old man voice. Padme Amidala doesn't have the voice. The main guard captain doesn't really have an accent. So people from Naboo don't necessarily have accents where people from Tatooine might have their own accent. For example, Watto might have grown up on a different planet that has their own accent. Accents are all about where they're from, right? So if you set up a group of people and you set an accent to be part of those people. For example, dwarves always have Scottish accents. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but it could be that this Scottish set of dwarves are actually from a different part of the world, and one of the characters knows that because they have an English accent instead of a Scottish accent. So it depends on how you want to set up your world. Accents are super easy to set up as long as you have it be regional. It also gives backgrounds to your NPCs when people interact with them. It's too easy. So that's a huge part of it as well. How do you telegraph your players with their choices without straight up telling them if they don't want to break immersion? Make an NPC do it. Make an NPC give them their choices. That's the best way to do it, is make an NPC that drives the story in some way, shape, or form, and have the give an NPC, for example, Old Canton would be one of those NPCs where he just gives you a choice. It gives you a bunch of choices, and that drives the players to say, oh, well, here's all our choices. Or if they're really not sure where they go, that's where Best Girl comes in, Skink comes in and goes, hey, we can do all these things. Let me know. That's how you do that, is you make an NPC give them the choices so that they understand that it's in the world and it's not metagaming. How do you give your players a reasonable amount of choice when making the game? Basically have a set of points within your story that your players have choice in, right? Where they can kill an NPC or they cannot kill an NPC. For example, with Ricky, my players were divided. Should we kill Ricky? Should we not kill Ricky? He did burn a bunch of people alive and potentially destroy a huge compound, and potentially even more than that because alchemist fire can't be put out with water. So make big parts of the story sort of subtle until they have to make a choice about exactly what's going on. That's my answer to that question. Here we go. We have a new question. Why do you hate Sarich? Sarich, why do you hate Ricky so much? I need a real answer from you now. Why do you hate Ricky so much? Why does everyone hate Ricky so much, really? Sunny asks, how do you get better at voice acting? My voice acting is shit and I don't know what to do. My recommendation to get better at... Oh, Germaniac, you need to watch the series on YouTube. There's so many things that you missed, honestly. Germaniac, I would recommend binge. Honestly, I don't know if it's binge worthy, but you could binge it at like 1.5 speed, 2 speed, and you'll get caught up fairly easily. Or put it in the background. Practice for voice acting is huge, absolutely. But another thing that I found that makes it really easy is find a TV show that people talk in your accent that you want to do in English or whatever language that you speak, and watch how their mouth works. Because if you're talking to someone and you can see that they don't open their mouth much, then you can get an accent from that. Or you can look at things and do them in a very specific way. So watch how they speak, because that makes a huge difference in... Everyone speaks differently relative to their accent. So for me, I like to pronounce and announce things very loudly. So that's true. One old man in chat. Live is always going to be better, but since I'm not partnered, I can't store my videos for long. So that's the problem, is I can't store my videos on Twitch because they won't let me. So yeah. Voice acting, just watch how people talk. It's like watch their mouth while you're watching someone with an accent, and watch their mouth and how they talk, because that makes a huge difference as well. As well as just practicing, or find someone on the internet. There's millions of people on the internet. So talk to someone, or try and have a video chat with someone who speaks in that accent all the time. It's really, really cool when you interact with people that are from a different area of the world, and you can try and get their accent. Lumi, that's because you're probably going too hard. You have to be a little bit more subtle about it. Luminous. Lumi, you asking questions? This is going to be a big one. Oh, I think I too much. Too much. It'd be interesting to know about community building goals for this community. Genuinely, I don't know how to answer that question. Well, that's because your group is very mean to you if you're trying to do a small child voice, it's hard for adults to do without sounding really creepy, if I'm being completely honest with you. I mean, there's just inevitable that you're just going to sound super creepy and people don't like it. And honestly, about community building goals, I don't even know how to answer that question because I don't know what I'm doing. All I can do is ask people to join the Discord and be more vocal and stuff like that. I don't really know how to build a community personally. All I know is that I have... all I know is that I have a Discord that people can come talk to and talk to each other, and it's actually been blowing up with people talking to each other in LFG. We have LFG channel. People like to play Dota together because that's one of our big audiences is Dota players and Magic and stuff like that. So we're working on building community. That's the answer to that question. I don't really know how to do it, but a Captain Nose Nugget. What a name. Have you ever allowed a spell that wasn't a normal spell to work? Work like the properties of Whirlwind, but it's called Vortex and controls matter to crumple something into a tight ball to make the explosion less detrimental. I would say that I have allowed custom spells to work as long as they're based off of a spell that already exists. For example, if you wanted to make a fireball that was less large and did less damage, then I would absolutely allow that. Like, it just depends. It depends on what class you're playing as well. For sorcerers, I would say that sorcerers are more likely to invent new spells than wizards are or clerics because the spell lists for them are already built and they have tons and tons of utility and they have the whole spell list available to them and all sorts of things like that. So for bards and sorcerers and warlocks, I think that making new spells absolutely makes sense relative to your playstyle. So Dota characters are superheroes. They literally just have a very extremely limited viewpoint about what their powers do exactly. So, and the amount of powers that they have is extremely limited relative to like Superman's super strength alone is like an infinite power in and of itself. So, and he wants me to talk about my first DMing experience. My first DMing experience was with my brother, his friend Dylan, and I don't remember his other friend's name. And we played in a universe that I made called the Knights of Noved. We played one session, and it was terrible. Because I literally described something for 45 minutes, and they said, yeah, this is boring, we're done playing. So that's pretty much the answer to that question is, like, my first DMing experience was terrible because I put too much time into describing stuff. And I was heavily motivated and inspired by my neighbor. He's literally like the best DM I've ever had in my life because he did voices and stuff like that, and then he's the only reason I'm here now. So hopefully I can get him to show up at some point. That'd be sort of neat. One-on-one games are extremely difficult to do. And that's purely because telling a story with one person is sort of difficult because making decisions by yourself, it's not, humans are meant to be together in groups. I mean, being one-on-one is extremely difficult. I mean, with children, it's a little bit easier, but for one-on-one is actually super fun for introductory stuff. So if you wanted to do, I would recommend doing like a one-on-one for character building. Like for initially, like when you're making a character, do a one-on-one session once the character's complete to introduce them into the world. That's how I like doing one-on-ones, and then everyone comes together as a group, knowing that their characters exist in the universe. It helps a lot too. Suggestions on how to roleplay better in fights. Describe what you're doing. Describe what you're doing in the fight. Don't just say, I'm going to run over here and hit this guy. Say, I'm going to pull out my weapons. I'm going to jump over this like crate in front of me. I'm going to slide in and I'm going to try and hit him straight in his hip or something. Describe what you're doing. There's nothing wrong with painting a picture outside of killing someone. Killing someone or putting someone at 0 hit points does not necessarily have to be the only time that description happens. Yeah, role-playing in combat. Also, talk to your party. If your party is completely silent, that means they're not talking to each other. In combat, everyone is yelling at each other. There's no... I mean, I was trained in the army. I was trained for everything. You're supposed to communicate. Oh, we're taking fire from someone at our 60 from 100 meters or something. Like, just talk to each other. The main thing about that is then here's how I would describe. I cast level 2 hold person. I would say my character is going to survey the battlefield and realize that this specific character is extremely hazardous to my friends. I'm going to cast a spell in order to try and keep him there so he cannot hurt my friends anymore. I cast level 2 hold person. That's how I would do it. Exactly! Slavix got it. My eyes roll back as I mutter to myself and begin twitching of the fingers in order to hold this person in place. There's ways to describe it, and then at the end of it, say exactly what you're doing to the DM so he understands mechanically what you're doing. Describe what you're doing beforehand. That's all I can say. It's actually it's super cool. Oh, Dad Vibes is here. Is Dad Vibes actually in the chat? I don't know if he is right now, but let's go Dad Vibes. I've already answered that question, Dad Vibes. Already answered it. A few software tool things. Okay, gonna answer that question later. If you play as a character, what role do I like playing? Oh, Dad Vibes. Admiral EQM. I've already answered your question. Okay, so Gerbazik. How do you handle players that immediately act in every situation, and at what time do you allow players to stop one another versus letting mayhem ensue? What do you mean immediately act in every situation? There is always going to be at least one player who feels like they need to lead the group because no one else will do it, or they're just that kind of person. I generally speaking let them do it, or what I do is talk to your players. This is a huge thing about playing D&D is if you're a DM, talk to your players about everything. Put them into a world and also make it mechanically fit to what you're doing. What I do is I say, okay, so what are you guys doing? And then I go player by player by player by player to ask them what they're doing in order so that there is some sort of order to chaos. I mean, there are times in which people can say, I can say, we're going to do this in a specific order. Make sure that you understand that you're in charge of this game. You're in charge of flow. Whether or not the characters are acting at the same time, it doesn't actually matter. Because of the fact that you're in charge, you can determine action order. You can determine everything that you want. Just make it understood that you don't just immediately act and do things, because everyone needs a chance to be able to play the game. If there's one person that's taking the lead, you need to talk to that person about it. And honestly, there is something to be said about people acting immediately versus people thinking about what they're doing. And every character's different. If it's their character profile to immediately act, maybe start asking them first. No? Okay. Maybe start asking them to act first in every situation, because that's what their character would do, right? Even if they don't, like, rolling initiative is a huge part of it too, going in initiative order, that kind of thing. It's all about how you want to run it. So, That's the answer to that question. Thank you for asking. What character do I like to play? I have not played Dungeons and Dragons as a player in 16 years, so I don't have an answer to that question. And every time, if I do ever get a chance to play, it's probably once. I haven't really played in a campaign in a long, long time. Or no, I did play with my little brother, but I played a warlock and I hated every second of it. And that was like 2 or 3, 4 years ago. We played a campaign for a little bit, and I hated every second of it. I love being a DM. So, okay, so here's a little bit of background on me, okay? If I'm playing a game and I'm losing, I hate it. Whether it's PvP, whether it's PvE, whether it's whatever, I hate losing video games. That's just who I am. I hate it. This is the game I cannot lose. I cannot lose this game. Because if my players are having fun, I'm winning. So as long as I do well writing the story and immersing people in it and they're actually having fun, I cannot lose. And that's literally what drives me as a forever DM. So I can't stand losing. I hate it. Every second of it. First tabletop game I ever played was RuneQuest. It was a D100 system from the 80s. And my neighbor played it with me. And my first ever roll was a crit, and I chopped some dude's head off, and it was great. It was fantastic. I'm okay with being a forever DM. I mean, I have asked people to let me play with them, and the main issue I have found is that people are intimidated by me when I play because I get really into it. If I ever do make a character, I roll everything. I have charts where I roll race, I roll background, I roll class, I roll subclass. I roll how they look. I roll how they started. I roll their whole background. I roll everything. I don't ever choose. I very rarely ever choose ever. So, if I do ever play, I just roll it because I don't really care, and I like to create a character, and I usually use that character as a NPC at some point. No. Joe Blender, join the Discord. I will post hopefully a week in advance. The problem is all of my people that I'm playing with are all Dota casters. So their schedule changes from week to week, and I always post in the Discord as soon as I know which campaign is playing what day and what time. So if you guys join the Discord, then you will know. Because as soon as I know, you'll know. So that's the answer to that question. Is that, and it's not called Arashell anymore. It's called Seeds of Destruction. I've officially named it because, to be honest with you, when we first started this campaign, I had no resources, and now people have been more generous to me than, like, in a long, long time. So I now have a lot of resources, and I'm working on 5 a.m. negative. This is why you don't have a choice, one old man in chat. This is why you don't have a choice. Okay. Yeah, the first tabletop game I ever played is RuneQuest. And it's very difficult to play because if you get into combat, it's a long process. We had a dungeon crawl that lasted for literally 3 months where we played once a week. Because it took so long to do everything. Okay. I'm going to be answering Quantum Potatoes' question. What was my first D&D quest? Okay, so this question coming from Germaniac is, what was my first ever D&D quest campaign? That was when I played the Knights of Noved, which is my name backwards, and I spent forever describing something, and then they told me I didn't want to play it. Literally, a Slavic Insanity, my favorite non-D&D campaign setting is literally any non-D&D campaign setting. I honestly find D&D campaign settings extremely boring and extremely two-dimensional. When they write campaign books, they literally write a specific set of things, and they write about a bunch of stuff, and then they don't tell you anything else. Like, there's not enough information for me to enjoy any of the pre-written stuff. I hate it. Like I've looked at the pre-written adventure books, and I hate it because they don't give me enough information, and there's not enough area for me to improvise well enough because they don't have enough information. No. I have, to be honest with you, I've never really written down any of my story settings. I just have them all in my mind. At some point, I should probably sit down and do that. Except for Steel Horizons, I have a PDF or a document that I'm making, that I'm writing as I get. Well, I have a lot of it written down, but it doesn't make any sense to anyone else. It only makes sense to me at the moment. If people are interested in me writing down Aeroshell stuff, I can do that. Yeah, but Jabberwock, I hate that. I genuinely hate that. I hate reading stuff that's pre-written because I'm creative. I can't help myself. I like making stuff. I like doing everything that I like doing. And I can't stand the pre-written stuff because I just don't like the way they write it. So that's the answer to that question. Is Turtle Taco here? Are you still here, Turtle Taco? I saw you earlier. Oh, Turtle Taco is here. Why did I want to do 2 campaigns? Because I want to get partnered. Getting partnered on Twitch means I can make a little bit more money doing it, and then I can get bigger. I can potentially be on the front page. I can do all sorts of things. It'll get me more opportunity to do what I want to do. And eventually it would be cool to be like Critical Role level where we can fly Purge and Moxie out and everybody and still like get everyone together to play physically. That's the idea. That's the end game, is to literally get all my players together on each campaign to be able to play together physically at least once. That is my end game, is like actually getting everyone together. That's the answer to the why. Why did I want 2 campaigns? Because I would love more opportunity to get this vision I have out to as many people as I can. It's not even to make money anymore. I just want to tell stories. That's what I want. I love telling stories. That's what I do. Everyone has told me my whole life that I should tell stories and I should write books and things like that, but I just don't really have the confidence to do that sometimes, and this has I've never been more motivated to do something, to put as much work into something as I ever have in my life besides this. I mean, last 2 weeks I was up until 5 a.m. almost every night writing stuff for Steel Horizons because it just motivates me to do stuff. The only thing I'm not willing to do really is 3 campaigns a week because that would drain me mentally. I'd just be drained and I wouldn't be able to do it well. Well, the thing is the thing about Slacks is he doesn't want to sit down for 4 hours. He doesn't want to. He only likes to play for like 2 or 3 hours. And that's the only reason we haven't had him in a regular campaign. It's because he doesn't want to. Which is fine, which is where I'm going to make a new character for him for Steel Horizons. I'm fairly certain he'll want to play at some point. He loves playing. So he tells me that every time he plays. It's like, this is always super fun. So Slacks will be back. And trust me, I have enough personalities on here that he can't really say no anymore. Because all of them are friends with him. So that's a big one. Do you plan to keep doing a D&D on Twitch as long as you have players? Well, yeah, absolutely. I plan on doing this for as long as I'm physically capable of doing it. Yeah, as long as people are willing to watch and players are willing to play, I am going to keep doing D&D. I will write new universes, or I will attempt to play in new universes or something like that. The main thing also, though, is the new streaming content will be coming as soon as Baldur's Gate 3 comes out and Cyberpunk 2077. I'm going to be playing separate I'm going to be playing single player of those on my own, but I will have a separate one that you guys will be able to play, that you'll be able to watch me play and to be able to play with me, because I'm not, like I said, I'm going to roll everything. So the plan is when Baldur's Gate 3 comes out, we're going to determine the party as a group, and it'll be super duper fun. Which wasps? Like the lava wasps? The lava wasp is a challenge rating 14 monster. FYI. So they got lucky in a lot of that. Yeah, so that's the plan. And that's the end of my questions that I have written down. So if you guys are ready, what would you say the alignments of the Aeroshell characters are? Mogamak is chaotic neutral or chaotic good. Linnea, I would say, is neutral good. Jenkins is chaotic good. And Elgar, I would say, is neutral. Just true neutral or chaotic neutral. Oh, yeah, that's because he had mirror image on. You can't do anything about mirror images without dispel magic, and wasps can't cast magic. Challenge rating for Not in the Kitchen. Challenge rating is if you have a certain level character, 1v1 versus this creature, that character should be able to defeat this creature. That's what that means. So a challenge rating 14 creature would be a level 14 creature. That doesn't necessarily equal 2 level 7 characters being able to defeat a level 14 creature. That might not even be a thing. Yeah, the mirror image was the only reason that Elfwicka survived that, by the way. So that was literally the only reason he survived. So now that we're at the end of questions, I have to make a display capture. Okay. So Kenkus are great as villains. Kenkus are just great overall. For Zoro the Bold, just do basic human bandits. Like, look up the basic human types or undead. Undead are super easy, super generic, fairly easy to do in swarms, especially if you have spellcasters. You can do lots of them because the spellcasters should have fireballs and things like that available. Especially level 5, you should have fireball available. Just make sure that, for me personally, if you figure out that an encounter is too hard, you can adjust fire. It's not that difficult. Yeah, and that being said, Slavic Nugget, even if I'm not interacting with you, I promise that I'm reading it, because sometimes I mess up, and I'm willing to accept that. How do you rein in a player like Jenkins? He and I talk. So whenever Jenkins does stuff, he talks with me beforehand. We talk to make sure that he understands that his character is chaotic in nature, and that's just basically him playing himself. But he also acknowledges the limit in his limit in the fact that I can say no to a lot of things that he does, and he's okay with that. Him being okay with me saying no to some of his antics is perfectly fine. Or my ability, I've learned to improvise really well. That's pretty much the answer to that question, is that literally, if you have a player that's playing a chaotic character, talk with them. Make sure that they understand that that you can say no to whatever they're doing, or basically just say, nah, I don't feel comfortable with letting you do that, or like you say, yeah. Saying no to Jenkins, I don't generally say no to things, but he has a lot of crazy shit that he likes to do. So what things do I try and make sure the players know during session 0? That's relative to what character they're building. I mean, literally, Cap and I spent 4 or 5 hours making his character. Lumi and I spent at least 5 hours making his character. I don't even know how long we spent making his character. Lyrical and I took 3 or 4 hours. Shiva and I took 3 or 4 hours. It's just, session 0 is making sure that everyone understands that their character exists in the universe and why they exist in the universe. That's it. It's actually super easy to do. Let me add a display. What? Ooh, that was crazy. I want to do this one. I'm gonna close this. I'm gonna go to the main page of this and We're gonna lose Forest Day for a while, and I'll keep answering questions. If you guys ask questions in chat, I am more than welcome to answer that. Keep asking questions. If you want to ask questions, let me know. I'll answer your questions. We're about to get into it. I just need to wait. Oh, I turned it off. I need to bring myself over it and then shrink myself to the side. Oh, dang. That's something that I've not done in a very long time. Because in the army, we did that because it was easy. So we eventually had this huge boss battle or this huge fight where I had an evil campaign and a good campaign running at the same time, and they ran into each other as like the very last session. It was really fun. But that's hard to manage. Props for doing that. Let's put me down here, and then we'll see how this works. Okay, so everyone should be able to see. Wow, I got some shit on my monitor. An acapella no, negative. I love singing, but I'm not singing that. So this is dndbeyond.com. This is one of the main tools that I use in order to make everything good. So this is the best tool that I have available to me for character creation. I do want to say that I got a legendary bundle from them for free. And it was amazing. Cap asked for help, and then he just gave me a legendary bundle for free. I just want to let you guys know that I'm supposed to legally tell you that. Do any of the new group? I think Lyrical. Well, Cap already played with me for a while, so he has all that. And then Lyrical has previous experience. Lumi and Sheever have no experience at all, but I think they're doing fantastically. So. I could start Forest Day. Once you get back into the Roll20 part of it, I can start a campaign and then set up. I can actually show you how to do music stuff too. That actually helps a lot. So here's the best character creation tool you could possibly have for anyone. This is also available on mobile. You could access your characters from mobile once you make them on here, or you can make them on the mobile app as well. The mobile app is actually super duper cool. So the first thing that you do is you come here, you make an account. I recommend making it through Twitch. Twitch is a little bit easier interface, or Google if you could get the Google one to work. Any advice on making one universe's logic working with another? D&D works in the planar system, so technically speaking, the universe of Star Wars would be its own plane, where it's all a galaxy worth of planar material essentially, and then using teleports. Or plane shift. Like there's tons of spells in D&D that make it justified to do anything. That's why Skink exists in all universes. Spoiler. Gemaniac, I was actually thinking about starting a stream series potentially. That the chat and we all build a universe together. I would call it Let's Build a World. Because people don't understand how to make. I'm not telling you about Skink. You'll have to learn about Skink. Learn how to make a universe and how to make it fit and how things that work together in the lore and stuff like that. It's actually really simple to do, and we can work on that as chat and me if you guys want to do that. Best girl coming to Steel Horizons, so she'll be there eventually. Don't you worry. So first we're going to do how to play or how to get started as a D&D player. Read some of the books, get some generic information, have your players read the player's handbook for ready, read. I would assume that's read. Ready 037. A DM who is just starting, read the books. If you're unfamiliar, get on D&D Beyond. This is the greatest tool you can possibly have in your arsenal, and I'll show you why right now. We're going to hold questions. So hold questions for like 15, 20 minutes while I get this going. And then any other questions we have after I explain to you how to get started online will help a lot. And it's also about whether or not your group is good with playing out without maps. That's sort of a thing as well. Roll20 has an okay character maker, but D&D Beyond is super immersive and it actually helps significantly. But you won't have a ton of the resources that I have, just because I have the Legendary bundle. But I'll show you how to get started with D&D as a whole on Roll20, or D&D Beyond for now, and then I can show you how to get the virtual tabletop and stuff like that. So hold questions, or if people still write questions, Sarish, if you could add them to the question page, that would be ideal. So the first thing we're going to want to do when you get started, whether you're a DM or not, you go to collections, you go to my campaigns, you can create a new campaign and you can name it whatever you want. For example, this is an example campaign. You create campaign. If you want to run it or not is up to you, and then you can go view campaign. Okay, so this is making a character is going to be a huge part of it. So create unassigned character. So this is the greatest and best character creation device in the universe, in my opinion, for Dungeons & Dragons characters. So you come here. And you don't have to name your character. Names by Fantasy Name Generator is super fun because you can actually roll your name if you want to. I have a specific system in which I do it, but we're going to randomize for time being. We're named Murray. Okay, or Muri is how I would pronounce it. So Critical Role has their own set of content. Playtest content is a little bit iffy because they haven't balanced it yet. Rick and Morty content is sort of a little bit out of control because it's Rick and Morty. Non-core D&D content's also there as well. Milestone is like what I like to do. XP is a little bit of a pain in the butt to track. Hit point types are fixed is usually easy because it averages it out. So if you roll poorly, you don't have a mage at level 5 with 5 hit points, or a wizard with 5 hit points. I've had that happen to me. Feats and multi-class requirements are super up to you. Level scaled spells are fun, or that's actually one that I would recommend. Encumbrance is also good because it depends on how immersive. It's all immersive. It's more immersive if your character can only hold a certain amount of stuff and you're not like a Diablo character where you have literally hundreds of things in your character. Ignore coin weight. That's up to you. The display is on top. This is about you, but this is public. So what I like to do first, I don't like... I'll explain feats when we get there. Not in the kitchen. I'll explain feats when we get there, right? So what I like to do first when I make a character is go to class first. So... when you're looking at classes, artificers are magic characters that use constructs or construct-like things to do damage or to basically support. You could be a support character. There's different versions of them. So what you do is you click a class, you click add class, and then whatever level you're starting at, I recommend starting at level 3 because level 3 is when people get their true identity. Up to level 1, you're always one shot away from being dead and things like that. It's not fun to have a character die that early. So level 3. So what I like to do when we make characters is you start from level 1. Okay, so now at level 1 I get to choose proficiencies, and this is all different per character. I'll run through a little bit on each character level 1 so you can understand how that works. So these people get 2 skills from Arcana, History, Investigation, Medicine, and Nature, Perception, and Sleight of Hand. So, and they also get a set of tools as a set of artisans' tools, as well as thieves' tools, tinker's tools, and tools of artisans' tools of your choice. So, example, what kind of crafter are you? Specifically for artificer, Arcana is a specific skill that's relative to identifying magic and things like that, or determining what spells they are. History is history of the world. Investigation is looking for something specific, is some specific piece of information or item. Medicine is determining whether not someone is sick, if they're poisoned, if they're diseased, that kind of thing. Nature is what kind of beast is that? What area, what biome of the world am I in? Perception is being able to see things around you. And then sleight of hand is hiding stuff from other people, whether it's on your person, inside of another person's stuff, hiding something behind your back, etc. So you get to choose between all of these. We're just going to do, for me personally, I like perception because it's the most used skill in the game. And then I like investigation because I want my artificer to use intelligence-based skills. So, artisan's tools, my character is going to be a smith because he likes making weapons. Okay, so Muri is now a smith. And then you can look at all the abilities that your character has. Magical tinkering is sort of like you make a bunch of little tiny magical things, and you have your spell casting. And for spellcasters, you also have a spells tab. And your known spells, so I get to have 2 cantrips and 1 known spell currently. This specifically is relative to what your intelligence is, or your intelligence is your spellcasting modifier. So everything will be explained in your basic character sheet, right? So I get to choose between all these spells, and spells are a little bit complicated depending on what class you are, but each class has their specific kind of spells. So Artificer has a spell book, and then you pick anything from the spell book. Barbarians don't really have casts, so literally when you click on the class, it explains to you everything that they get all the way down, except for their subclasses. They don't explain those specifically until you make the character. Bards have a certain amount of known spells. They cast those spells very well. Blood Hunters is a Matthew Mercer created class where they can sacrifice their own health in order to do some cool stuff. Clerics are dedicated to a specific type of god that make them super powerful. So that's the general idea. Druids are basically nature version of clerics. Fighters fight. That's what they do. They're good at it. Monks are sort of tranquil fighters that use their hands and some specific sets of weapons to do damage. Paladins are basically cleric and fighter combined. Ranger would be a druid and fighter combined. Rogue is sort of its own thing. They're very skilled. So if you look at the rogues level 1 stuff, they get 4 proficiencies of any of the rogue skills. They have a lot of skills available, and then they also get expertise, which means they double their proficiency bonus for any of the skills that you choose on the rogue specific thing. Sorcerers naturally cast spells, so they have a very limited spell list. Warlocks dedicate themselves to what's called the Patron, whether it's Cthulhu, the Great Infernal, the Great Fey Mother, I think is what it's called. I don't remember what it's called. Let's see what it's called. We go to level 3. Or level 1 is Patron. So the Archfey, Celestial, Fiend, Great, Old One, Hexblade, and Undying. So those are all relative to what Warlocks do. But this is how you get started. You make your character. And then if you really wanted to, you could Google. There's different ways to make characters. And then you choose a race relative to that character. Not everyone is going to have these available to them, but these are actually all the races available currently. There's a lot of them. Wanti purebloods are usually evil. Giant snake people. Warforged are robots. Verdan are like elves and goblins put together, almost. So basically, it depends on how you want to play your character. I choose class first, then you go race, and then you can choose your abilities. So these are all your stats. Generation method. If you're new to D&D, just do point buy. Makes it super easy. Everything starts at 8. Then you can spend a certain amount of your 27 points to make your stats better as you move along. For me personally, I like to have everything at least +1. I like to put everything at 12. And then you can specialize a little bit from there. For example, if I want to do 14, that means I have +1 and +2 across the board. It's super easy. And then your description, you get a background, which gives you additional skill proficiencies and stuff like that. How would I point by a wizard? I would point by a wizard at 8 strength, 12 dexterity, 12 constitution. I would actually drop wisdom. I'd drop wisdom to 10, put intelligence to 15, and then I would do wisdom to 13 and constitution to 13, or I'd do dexterity to 13. This is how I'd point by a wizard. Because if you do an intelligence-based class, you will have 16 or 17 intelligence, and then when you hit level 4, you can increase it to 18 and do stuff like that. It makes it super easy. Because intelligence is your casting modifier, you want to be able to see the stuff you're shooting at with wisdom. You want to have a little bit more hit points than normal, and then dexterity determines your AC, because you're not going to be a strength guy. Unless you're planning on doing a fighter wizard or something like that. So it's all relative to how you want to play. Description gets you background. Your background, there's literally over 100. They each get you 2 additional skill proficiencies, some languages and stuff like that, depending on where your character started. In Xanathar's Guide to Everything, there's actually like a table roll that you can do to roll all of these things. So once you have your character made, what I'll do is I will go to one of my characters. Isdras Khan. Is he here? No, he's not. Because this is a different. Well, technically, this is him. He's Vidalkin. So when we're looking at our character sheet, you can look at this, right? This is his stats. I think I rolled these stats, but he's level 5. And he uses he doesn't have any of his equipment. That's cool. But this is basically how you get started in D&D Beyond. So for example, if you have a question about how combat works, what you can do is you can come up here and you can go combat, right? And you hit enter, and then you go to the Dungeon Master or the Sage Advice thing, mounted combat. Where is it? This is so stupid. Or you could go to sources, and if you have the books available to you. No, the players need to make a character because that's the point. If they're playing a character, they need to enjoy it. That's the big one. You can make predetermined characters. Sometimes that's fun for inexperienced people, but then you can explain how everything works as you go. Makes it a little bit easier. The player's handbook in here also has all this stuff available. So if you have any questions about barbarians, you can click on barbarians and it gives you a whole breakdown about exactly what barbarians are like. Or if you have a question about order of combat, you can just go order of combat. Or if you type initiative, it'll take you to this page as well. Or if you have like a specific spell, for example, if I want to know about wish, I go here. And the first thing it brings up is the wish spell. And you can click on this. Favorite starting level for campaigns is 3. So wish, this gives you the spell for wish. That's exactly how you do it. So this is basically D&D Beyond. It's the most powerful character creation tool that I know of. And yeah, it's super awesome. So that's pretty much it for D&D Beyond. But now we're going to go to Roll20 and we're going to go home. So this is my Roll20. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new game. Maybe, if it wants to let me do that. Or not, that's cool. So we're going to do example game. And then what you can do on Roll20, so this is the digital tabletop, the virtual tabletop system that I prefer because I subscribe to it. The subscription gives you lots of cool things that you can do. I think it's like $100 a year or something like that. But we want to go down to D&D 5th edition by Roll20. It gives you a little picture of what the character sheet looks like and all the things you can do with it. And we say, I'm ready, create game. And then you can have people get invited. I can actually click invite if people wanted to join it, but it's not where we're at yet. This is just my example campaign. So I'm going to let you guys know that I do have a script running that turns everything into dark mode, essentially. So we're not allowing that. The first thing I would do if you're ever doing this is turn broadcasting to others and receiving from others off. Let me get my head out of the way. Turn this off because I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I hate every part of it. It really annoys me. And then what you do is I would change your character name. I always change my display name to Game Master. And then on the bottom left, right there, it changes my name on the bottom left. Absolutely. I can actually show you how to do that after I'm done with this tutorial. If you want to hang out, Lovin'. I think that is how you pronounce that. If you want, I can show you how to homebrew a race. It's actually super easy. Do you know if they're sub races or if they're brand new races? Oh, and the first thing you want to do when you're creating a new campaign is go to your first page, click on the cog, and then go to background, change it to black, hit OK, because everyone loves dark mode. Because I actually had to homebrew a race specifically for Cap in Steel Horizons. So I had to learn how to do that. I didn't know how to do that, but I know how to do it now. So this is this is your basic tabletop. If you have an image, for example, I have all of my uploaded stuff that I have. For example, this right here. Well, we need to move this to the map layer first. So you have different layers. So in the upper left, it might be a little bit small, but that's because I have mine scaled down a little bit. Here you go. Let's scale this up for you guys. I like to have mine at 80% because it's easier. You have map and background, which if we manipulate this, we can actually have it. And this also brings me to the idea that Patreons exist. This isn't to scale, obviously, but we can scale it up depending on what. So I subscribe to 4 Patreons now that give maps. So basically I pay monthly You have access to their whole library of maps relative to what tier you subscribe to. You get different variations and things like that. I pay $10 a month for one, $10 per map on one, and they usually do 2 maps per month. And then I do $2 per map on another. He does 4 maps. Another one does 4 maps at $2, and then another one does 2 maps at $1. So I pay to have these maps available to me. And I think I'm supposed to credit them, but I haven't done that yet because I have a really hard time getting stuff done, if I'm being honest with you. So this is the map that you guys saw earlier in the week with Steel Horizons. So you can set up the map scale. If you wanted to change the scale on the grid, you can do that. So if we want it to be 50 by 50, we can hit OK, and it will automatically scale it to 50 blocks or 50 squares or whatever. And then you can actually have each of them be a relative foot, relative feet, and things like that. So this is super customizable. When you upload stuff, you can upload all your tokens, you can upload maps, you can actually organize them by folders. So I have some of my maps in these folders. And then for making a character, we just hit add, and then you add character, and then you can say, okay, this is in my journal. If I had additional players, I could add it to their journal, and they're the only ones that can see it, right? So this guy's name is stupid. We're just gonna name him Murray. Save changes, and then you go to the character sheet and you just say edit sheet directly. So what you could do is you could transfer all of your information that you have over to this character sheet. And for mine specifically, if I want, the compendium is only available for stuff that's available via the public use license, which is called the SGL, I think. So if I wanted to make a specific class, you could go here, and I want to be a cleric. So I drag cleric onto my character sheet, and boom, it gives me all of my cleric stuff. Ritual casting is about the only thing you get because that's the only thing they can license. But if you have anything that you want, for example, we want a backpack. We go to items, and we scroll down, and we look for backpack. I am the worst at this. And you drag it, bam, it gives me a backpack right in the middle. It put the weight and everything on there automatically. You can't put anything in the backpack yet. I believe they're working on implementing that right now. It automatically gave me my proficiencies for that. And then whenever you choose a proficiency, you could click that. It gives you your 2 proficiency bonus. So if I was doing deception and I have, for example, if I have 20 charisma, it automatically does that. And then in the chat, when you click on deception, bam, I rolled a nat 20. Let me move myself a little bit. Oh, don't want to move that. I want to move my camera. There we go. And then a little bit of background info. This thing will automatically be set to roll at advantage. You can click this cogwheel. Click always roll advantage to query advantage. So anytime you're rolling something, it'll say, hey, do you want a normal roll? Do you want advantage or disadvantage? So normal roll would just roll once. Oh, thank you to Hip Hop. I appreciate that. That's awesome. I really appreciate that. So this is, and if you scroll over it, you can actually see that it's 7 plus 7. In most cases, the green means that it's in the regular game without the script running. It will be a green numbers instead of a green outline. My script changes everything to make it more. It's better to view it with dark mode, in my opinion. It makes it it makes it more immersive. It makes it just look better overall. So you can copy and paste most of your stuff over, or just straight up put anything that you have on this character sheet. For some specific stuff in D&D Beyond, if I wanted to add anything that wasn't there, you can customize it. For example, I can be like, oh, I have a super gun, and it weighs 1 pound, and then I can add the thing, and then it's like, okay, it's a dexterity-based gun. It's called the super gun. And it does 10d10 damage plus intelligence. I don't know why it would do that, but here we are, and it's going to do piercing damage. And for some reason, the let's say the crit damage is different. How did we do that last time? So there's a way. There is no way to import from D&D Beyond because they're technically opposing. They're 2 different platforms that don't like each other, so they'll never be integrated, which is super unfortunate. But if honestly, if D&D Beyond ever comes up with the tabletop, I'm going to be completely moving to that regardless. So That's pretty much where we're at. If D&D Beyond ever makes an actual tabletop, I will absolutely move to that, as long as it's as intuitive as this, if not more intuitive. But now that I'm done making my super gun, I can at any time. Oh, I have no dex. Let's say I have like 16 dexterity. So now I can click my super gun and I have advantage and I shoot it. I probably didn't hit with this roll, but then you click on the text, it rolls the dice. 64 damage. Damn, I rolled well. That's sick. But yeah, that's pretty much how the game works essentially. And then if you have a token, so for example, let's choose Murray. So Murray is this scared looking, this like combat dwarf. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. You go to token layer first, obviously, objects and tokens, and then we make Murray this guy. And then what we could do is you could double click and say this guy is Murray, and you set his bar to HP. Where's HP? You set this one to AC. You hit save changes. So now I don't have any HP, but let's say I have 50 hit points, right? So it automatically makes it 50 of 50. Yeah, you can build anything that you want. It's all relative to how you set the stats up. The super gun, it's cannon, super gun. I'm just kidding. But now this, anytime I change this tokens, if I lose 10 hit points, you hit -10, and it will change it. I don't think it'll change it in the character sheet, but it will change it for the token, and that's how you track stuff. You can actually measure, for example, the super gun only had a 10 foot shooting radius. It's a shotgun or something. You can actually find that. You can actually measure. So if I wanted to move from here to here to here to here to here, you can measure that out, and then you can just say, oh, well, I'm moving over here. So there's lots and lots of ways to do everything in this. I mean, it's all available. I mean, I even have a script running in my other game that lets you change forms because somebody made it through the API, which is, I'm not that good of a scripter. I'll let other people do that, and I appreciate that they figure that out because it's freaking sick. And yeah, that's pretty much Roll20 in a nutshell. It's actually super easy. For music, we can go to manage audio. You can go to all the tracks available here. You might not be able to read some of them because of the dark mode script I have running, but if we wanted to go to 747 interior for some reason, you can add it to the game, and then we turn it up, and then we hit play, and then if you hit this, it'll put it on repeat. So we're now in a 747, everybody. It actually would be like super fucking loud, because being in an airplane is loud. Ah! But that's it, and then your players will be able to hear this. Everyone will be able to hear this. Oh. Bing! I love that noise. I love flying, though. So it depends on where you're at. They have lots of modern. They have lots of industrial, like... they have lots of really cool songs here, and then they have one for, like, where is it? 8-bit dungeon boss. So it depends on what you're doing. If your stuff's not serious, they have like tons and tons of music relative to what you want to do. So yeah, that's Roll20 in a nutshell. It's actually super easy once you get everything imported over. I use the D&D Beyond overlay because it's easier to make characters and understand how characters work. And then this is the way we actually play. So good night, Jim Maniac. Appreciate you coming and asking questions. I hope I answered your questions sufficiently. As well, I wanted to show is Lovin' here still, because I'm going to show you how to homebrew a race. This is cray cray. So you come here to let me know when you're here. If you're here, Lovin'. Is he here? Okay, you are here. So, you come here, and then you go to create race. And then it says, okay, do you want to create a sub race? Do you want to create a variant of a race, or do you want to create a completely new race? So what we do is we click on completely new race, and you could create from scratch, or you could choose an existing race, right? So you click create from scratch, and then it won't be published, but it will automatically be added to whatever campaign you're in. So your DM is going to have to do this. It's not you. because you can't share any of your stuff unless it's published. So your DM is going to have to go through this process. If you want to link him this video or make a clip of this, you're more than welcome to do that. And then there are some unacceptable things that you have to do. So if we wanted to say, let's say we wanted to make, I haven't really made a custom race in a long time. Let's say I wanted to make a giant lizard man that's based off of Warhammer. So we want to do just a Saurus, right? So Saurus is the name, version 1.0. Size, he's going to be large because Saurus warriors are enormous. His walking speed is going to be 30 because he's a normal boy. He's large, but he's slow. Saurus warriors they have 0 burrowing speed. They don't really have a separate climb speed. No flying. They probably have a 40 swim speed because lizards are better. And then we do a short description. Giant lizard warrior. Gaint. Giant lizard warriors. Saurus are the mainline infantry for lizard men. I'm not gonna make super gun people. We're making Saurus warriors. We'll say that they're like lizard folk. Within the race itself. Race group. Oh, we'd have to make a really long description. I don't want to do that. Giant, tough lizard warriors. We'll have sub races. Nah, negative. So you create a race. And then this gives you the 30. It's not a valid number. Apparently 30 feet is not a valid number. This field is required. Giant warriors. I don't want to fill out all this information. Okay, so the race has been created. So now you have to make the specific attributes to this race, right? So racial traits would be part of how much do they get stat attributes, and for most races it's +2 to one stat, +1 to another, depending on what race it is. Some races are different. For my race, for my strong strength bonus, because they're Saurus are strong. I'm pretty sure your DM can put more information in on this, but display order doesn't really matter. Then you hit save, and this creates that attribute, and then you can define what this attribute is with all the options. Okay, so now what we do is we set up modifiers, because it's not necessarily a racial trait, but this is a modifier. Modifier type. This would be oh no, it's not a modifier. This is wrong. They don't have mod. It should be option, technically speaking. Oh, nope. I am completely wrong. Wait, it should be a modifier. I think it should be a modifier. Hold on. I'm figuring this out. We're gonna do this together. Oh, ability score. Strength. Two. Save. Modifier type. It should be ability. Where is it? It should be under bonus. Oh, choose an ability score. No, it should be strength. So it should be where is it? Strength. Ability score. Strength score. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So now we get +2 strength for our Saurus warrior. Then we add another one that is a bonus to Constitution. We don't want to choose. We just want Constitution score. 1 to Constitution score. Okay, and then as long as it's, I don't want to. I want to get rid of this one. Save. And then what we do is we add another modifier, right? So what I want is I want them to have a bonus to AC. So bonus to armor class, that they get a plus. Wait, it should be set. I wonder if I can set armor class. Oh wait, it should be unarmored armor class to 16. No, I'll set it to 13. Because they're sort of their thick hide gives them 13 AC without armor on. And you can follow, basically what I would do is I would make sure that within this race it follows the rules of the other D&D races, because it makes it easier. So if we just save this, what we can do is we can go back to Murray. What we could do is we can go back to this character. Wait, where's Murray? There you are. Edit. And I could go to race, and then I can say, is my Saurus warrior here? Saurus. Choose race. So now, when I go to... What? I don't think it worked. Yeah, it did. So I get +2 to strength, +1 to constitution, and then... when we go... Wait. Oh, I should be a barbarian. I can look at my character sheet. And now, I am a Saurus warrior, right? So I have 24 AC. That's wrong. It's doing the calculation wrong. Oh, but if you look at it, it says strong strength bonus. That's all it says, because I didn't properly do the... Oh. That's because of unarmored defense isn't overriding. But it's okay. But that's how you make a homebrew race. It's fairly simple. It's actually really simple. You just have to make sure that you're doing the math correctly and you're doing the proper sort of paperwork. I know, right? This dude is brutal. And he has the least amount of strength for a barbarian ever. This would not be a very good barbarian. I've been trying to set up a... Okay, so Budmond? I don't know. Set up a D&D session with some friends online. I've only ever seen some of your sessions with Purge and folks. What online tools would you recommend to set up a session? D&D Beyond, Roll20. You don't have to spend any money. You can just do it. If you want to watch the VOD of this video, you come to this this specific timestamp, you should be good. It's actually super simple. Make characters on D&D Beyond, transfer character, or like copy over some of the stats for Roll20, and then from D&D Beyond to Roll20, you can actually play in the game and maintain your characters leveling up and stuff in D&D Beyond. That's what I recommend, because it's just easier. That's what I recommend, absolutely, for Budmond. But yeah, that's all I have planned today. If anyone doesn't have any other questions, I think that's where we're going to leave it. Join the Discord if you guys want to post Discord. Subscribe to YouTube. How long do you think you need to play? You could start DMing right now. Get yourself a book. It will be in the VOD, absolutely. Literally, I just went through it, Budmond. I just went through it. So, or if you have questions, join the Discord. Message me. I should be able to answer them. If I don't answer them right away, just give me a minute. I'm not really that busy. You can start DMing right now. Look up Matthew Mercer's tutorials. Brendan Mulligan has amazing tutorials. Matthew Colville has amazing tutorials. Everyone join the Discord. Come talk to us. Seriously, come talk to us. I'll be posting when we're gonna play, who is playing, etc. Yeah, subscribe to YouTube. No, you're good. Join the Discord. Come talk to me. I'd be more than happy to walk you through stuff. It's not an issue. Oh, feats. I missed feats because I forgot. Okay, so feats. That's specifically in leveling characters. So if we go back to leveling up this character, okay, whenever you get, for example, we're going to change over to fighter because fighters have the most ability to get feats in the game. And we're going to set ourselves up to level 20. So a feat is a very specific ability that you get to have that modifies how your character interacts with the world. Ability score improvements. You can choose feats or ability score improvements. Ability score improvement is basically I can increase my charisma by 2 or something, where a feat is something very specific. So a feat is something like actor. Actor gives you 1 charisma up to 20. You have advantage on charisma deception and charisma performance checks when trying to pass yourself off as a different person. You can mimic the speech of a different person. So this gives you just a little bit more of an ability to do something specific. For example, one of my favorites is crossbow expert. You ignore the loading properties of crossbows, with which you are proficient. Being within 5 feet of a hostile creature doesn't impose disadvantage on your ranged attack roll, so you can be right next to someone and shoot them with a crossbow. And when you use the attack action and attack with a one-handed weapon and a hand crossbow in your other hand, you can shoot with the other hand crossbow for free. Bonus action to attack with the crossbow. Yeah, so crossbow expert's one of my favorite. Dual wielder's great. You actually get a 1 AC when you're wielding 2 separate melee weapons. You can use 2 weapon fighting even with one-handed melee weapons. You aren't light, so normally when you're dual wielding, you have to have 2 light weapons in order for that to work. You can draw and stow 2 one-handed weapons when you'd only be able to draw and stow 1. That's huge. Heavy weapon expert is amazing. You literally reduce all non-magical damage done to you by 3. That's a big one. So these are basically just things that make your character a little bit better in a very specific way. That's what a feat is. And so instead of taking stat bonuses that you can get for your abilities, you can actually do that. And fighters get them every other level. So they get one at 4, 6, 8, 12, 14, 16, and 19. Which is huge because eventually they literally, instead of 3 attacks, you make 4 attacks per turn. So brutal. Yeah, there's all sorts of fun ways to do stuff. So, yeah. So yeah, that's if that explains everything to you. No, because it's Jenkins. I don't know what you expect. I don't know what you expect, Sarich. Yeah, but I think that's where we're gonna leave it. I have writing to do anyway because I'm not sure. I did answer your question, Mom. She just texted me. Oh, and by the way, the Patreons I subscribe to are Sizzy and Peku. Actually, I think I can go to my Patreon page without having to worry about too much. Hold on. Oh wait, it's here anyway. So here's what Patreon looks like. You can actually go to each creator, and this is how much I subscribe to each of them for. So for example, Sizzy and Peku are awesome. They create massive maps that are super immersive and things like that. And then you can come down here and look at specific. So if you subscribe to a certain tier, you can get advantages of specific things. For example, since I'm a $10 per person, I get access to all of the versions of this map, which are all of these versions of this map. I am working in subscriber one-shots. So this is where I get my maps, by the way, is Patreon. So each of them have their own style, and you can do very specific things with each of these. I highly recommend it if you want to be a super immersive DM. Spend a little bit of money, it makes it worth it, honestly. Like the total immersion aspect of these maps makes it huge if you're trying to do online stuff. And even if you're not trying to do online stuff, get yourself a TV or a cheap projector and project stuff onto a table. Like, you can do all sorts of cool stuff. You have a lot of resources available to you. Just FYI. So people want to know about my Patreon stuff. This is how I get my maps, because I don't know how to make maps. So I pay people that really know what they're doing. That's pretty much the answer to that question. Yeah, and if you have any other questions, we're going to take questions in the Dungeons & Dragons channel for the next Q&A. I don't know when that will be, but we have a document now that I will be able to answer your stuff, and I will do a stream, or I might just make a video about how to start off as a Dungeon Master at some point. It's that question in and of itself is too expansive that I can't just answer it offhand. That would take like 2 or 3 hours for me to really explain well, and I have to make an outline. I should probably actually make a real presentation as to how to start off as a DM. Also, there's also lots of creators that have this done already, mainly Matthew Mercer. Brendan Mulligan has one. Matthew Colville has one. Those guys are amazing, honestly. Like they're really, really good at what they do, because they really care about their players and the craft and the game itself. So yeah, with that being said, let me make myself big again. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming out. Thank you from anyone who re-upped their sub. I saw a couple people did. Thanks for gifting subs Hip Hop Man. I really appreciate it. It helps support me and helps me do the thing. Yeah, Wonder Draft is awesome. If you guys look at the maps below in the About section of the Twitch channel, you can check out my maps. The one for Steel Horizons, the Akron Strain, is 75.5 megabytes. Go check that shit out. Super sick. It took me 12 hours to make it. Yeah, thanks a lot, everybody. And I think, I don't want to say, but we might be playing Steel Horizons next Saturday, because Cap has stuff he has to do. Yeah, we might be playing on Saturday. I will be posting in the Discord. Join the Discord. Hit the thumbs up on the first page. It's basically, if you react with a thumbs up on the first page, it will let you into the Discord. I just want to make sure that people aren't being jerks to each other. That's like the main thing. Is the rules are just don't be jerks to each other. No politics. That's it. No politics. No religion. Just talk to each other in the Discord, and you'll be good. Everyone have a fantastic day. And remember, I'm always available. If you guys actually have questions for me, like if you want to talk to me, I am available. I promise you. If I don't have time, I will get to it eventually. I'm available to talk to. Just message me if you have questions. Specifically, who was that? Mom, you literally just texted me like an hour ago. Of course. Who was that? Slavic Insanity. I expect a message from you soon. That's what I expect from Slavic Insanity. Yeah. And I will talk to you guys later. Have a great day. Bye.